more other developments in what has been the really worst and most costly week ever for Fox News as a media company. There was this record-breaking penalty which hit Fox to settle that Dominion case. Indeed, it was many, many, many times the largest penalty that Rupert Murdoch's ever had to shell out for. Tonight, we now have new evidence, though, in a related story. And I mentioned this at the top of the show. It's an exclusive. It's a never-before-heard recording of a phone call between a Fox anchor and Republican Senator Ted Cruz, and this is from that key tense period in November 2020. And as part of our reporting, we can tell you the source tonight. This is from a former Fox producer who's turned whistleblower who came up in the same related case about Fox alleged lies, Abby Grossberg. Now, in this recorded call, Senator Cruz discusses how facts would be needed to prove Trump's election fraud claims in court.
It can't just be, somebody tweeted this. It's got to be demonstrable facts that can be laid out with evidence, because that's what a court of law is going to look to, not just an allegation, but actual facts. And so, I'm hopeful. I hope when Rudy comes on the show tomorrow, he has some of those facts, and I hope the legal team continues to lay out the specific evidence, because that's what it's going to take to prevail in court.
Fact check. True. That is what it would take. Senator Cruz was a lawyer for a long time. And what he just described is the actual process. It is interesting that behind the scenes, he sounds more tethered to reality about that process than in the way he acts in his public life. And I'm going to get to that fact check. But what he described there was true. You need facts to prevail in court. They didn't have those facts. They never prevailed in court. It sounds like in a diplomatic way, in that November call, Senator Cruz already knew that there had been no public information suggesting that there were facts to support overturning the election, that he was even skeptical of them coming up short in court. That in a way, you're hearing a kind of a reasoned and diplomatic version of, hey, get ready to lose, and they did. The Trump team lost all those cases. It's a contrast, though, to how Mr. Cruz, and Senator Cruz, of course, played the opposite role on January 6th itself. He used his power to vote against certifying the Biden victory, which was supported by those very facts that he had referenced after. Of course, as the senator predicted, no court ever sided with the bogus lies that Trump was making for claims of fraud.
I want to speak to the Republicans who are considering voting against these objections. I understand your concerns, but I urge you to pause and think. What does it say to the nearly half the country that believes this election was rigged if we vote not even to consider the claims of illegality and fraud in this election?
We can now see the line from November, when he was talking about facts, to January 6th, where he was talking about the message that it sends to the people who think something. With all due respect to everyone's views, this was not a random poll. This was Congress doing its job to certify and only to object based on those very actual facts that Cruz months prior had noticed the absence of. Half the country can believe in the tooth fairy, or that the tooth fairy stole the election. It doesn't mean that Congress should go out of its way after an armed insurrection, to say the least, and start just making it up to appease the people who are incorrect. I should mention we reached out to Cruz's office and did not receive a response. The senator welcome to join me on the beat to discuss this and other issues anytime. As mentioned, this newly aired recording is part of the evidence from former Fox News producer Abby Grossberg. Bloomberg today reports that her secret recordings were some of the evidence that actually helped spur the last-minute settlement and costly penalty for Fox News. Fox concerned, among other things, about Grossberg's testimony, about her recordings, about how Dominion's lawyers would use them against multiple people, including the big boss, Murdoch himself. Fox has said that the Bloomberg reporting is, quote, completely false. The lawsuit alleges that this network was pressuring her to give misleading testimony in that case. Again, we all know this, and it's easy to kind of consider this a quaint thing, but when you testify in court, you have an obligation to tell the truth. In fact, if you don't, you can get yourself in trouble. You can commit perjury. And this whole case is about whether people were telling the truth or not. So it was quite damaging in the eyes of many that this person on the inside who had been doing the work at Fox, said their own lawyers, was encouraging new misleading statements or potential lies or potential perjury. Grossberg saying that Fox lawyers were coercing, intimidating, and misinforming her. That's in the settled case, that she was uncertain that her testimony would end up being fully accurate because of the intimidating and confusing coaching. I want to make sure you know what Fox says about this as well. They respond that her allegations in this case are baseless and that she had, quote, no bearing on the settlement. So here we are in the middle of all this, the truth and the lies, the people who knew better, the people who got up after those now convicted seditionists stormed your Capitol to steal your vote. And some of these politicians and some of these folks in the media, not all, we will always go precisely like we did tonight, but some of them responded to all that by doubling down on the lies and abusing their power. This is about the many, many millions that Fox now has to pay, but it's about a whole lot more than that.